Well, if you haven't heard by now, the BC government just announced last Thursday a cooling off period similar to the one that's currently in existence with brand new properties, but now they're announcing it into resale properties across the entire province. Well, kinda. In reality, the government has only announced their intent to announce a cooling off period, and they haven't actually announced a cooling off period. Only that it will probably come into place in the spring of 2022, and more information should be coming soon. In this video, I'm going to cover that topic and its possible effects on the marketplace right after I ask you to please subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on Surrey, BC, and Canadian real estate. And if you could, please make sure to hit the like button on this video and also comment down below. You interacting with this video is actually the best way for me to get this information out to other people who are all hot and bothered and very much looking forward to a cooling down period. And with that said, now onto the video. Okay, so the new regulatory body here in the world of BC real estate announced on Thursday, November 4th, that they will be introducing a cooling off period for resale properties across the entire province, and then gave no more information at all. Other than to say they have now announced the plan, they will only now start to consult with the industry to see what effects it may have. Yep, you heard that right. The BC government didn't actually consult with any professionals in the industry to find out what effects their new proposal might actually have. In a way, it would almost be like the health minister here in BC announcing sweeping changes to the healthcare system before talking to, doctors, nurses, administrators, or researchers for what effects those changes might have on the healthcare system. But either way, this change apparently is coming. So what is it you need to know? Well, first, let's look at the intent. The market has been crazy since, 2016 here in BC. And with a crazy hot market with lots of activity and ever dwindling supply, prices are just continuing to rise. This leaves many buyers in a position where they have to compete with other buyers for just one single listing. And other than price, buyers can also negotiate things like dates, the amount of the deposit, or the amount of conditions that they have in a sale to try and be competitive against those other offers. And a very strong position to come from is actually having very few or no conditions in your contract. To learn more about what a condition is, please make sure to go back and watch this video here. Since so many buyers are so panicked to get into properties and there's such crazy competition, many of those buyers are actually either doing their due diligence in advance of the offer and then waiving all of their conditions once the offer is submitted, or some of them are choosing not to do any due diligence at all, which is pretty dumb. And since so many buyers to now try and win the offers are choosing not to insert those conditions, the BC government has decided that this likely opens up the average consumer to unreasonable risk. So to increase consumer protection, what they're saying is you as a buyer, when you make an offer on a property, no matter what, you will have a period of time to rescind that offer. Now, what is unclear is what is that period of time going to be? Is it 24 hours? Is it 3 days? Is it 7 days? Or is it 10? I'm going to assume that it's going to be similar to the brand new construction, but what it does is it takes out the need for a buyer to have any conditions at all. In reality, what it does is it makes every single offer that a seller receives conditional for a set period of time. In other words, the BC government is mandating a condition period for every single sale. Now, this is an amazing thing for those hardworking people who have been having a hell of a lot of trouble trying to compete with unconditional offers when they don't feel like their financing is in a good enough spot to remove that condition, or if they feel like, I have to get an inspection done, but I'm not willing to pay for an inspection until after I have an accepted offer. So in theory, this will allow every single buyer that gets an accepted offer on a property to do their due diligence after writing the offer rather than before. Basically, it's a very well-intended theory designed to protect buyers from themselves in a very crazy market like we've seen since 2016. So that's the intent, but now let's talk about what this move by the BC government is not. This has absolutely nothing to do with affordable housing. This will not cool the market, nor will it bring house prices down. So now this is consumer protection that they're putting in place. But let's take a moment and look at the other side of the equation, which is seller protection. You see, we're so worried about helping people get into the market, and we very much should be, because that is a big economic driver of our entire country. But the buyer most often gets portrayed as this little weak person who's just barely struggling to get into the market, because we all know people that would love to be in the market that can't get there. And then the seller is portrayed as this evil, maybe kind of werewolf. But what is it eventually that every single successful real estate buyer becomes in the future? I mean, every single one of them down the road becomes that's right, they become a seller. Last time I checked, only about an exact 50% of every real estate transaction is the buyer, and the other 50% is the seller. So if you put something in place that protects, in this case, the buyer, it obviously will hurt the other side of the transaction, which in this case is the seller. And in this case, the people that it's trying to help are actually going to be the people that may suffer from the unintended consequences of it down the road, because they're trying to go from being the buyer to eventually one day the seller. Get it? Now let's talk about the realities of the market and how I guarantee you this will be abused in the future. There are buyers out there that will be offering on multiple properties with no intent on purchasing all of those properties. For example, if a buyer is trying to buy one property and 15 properties come on the market that week, there is absolutely nothing proposed so far that will stop that buyer from offering on all 15 properties. And if they're the highest offer on all of those properties, they will tie up 15 properties for the cooling off period. Then they'll take that period to decide which one of the 15 properties they actually want and complete and go ahead with that sale, completely wasting the time of the agents and all the other buyers and the sellers over that, let's call it 7-day period. So there's now 14 people that have had their time completely wasted. Or buyers are going to put in crazy high offers. I mean, even higher than before, now knowing that they're going to have a period of time to try and negotiate the deal back down to what they actually wanted to pay, because the other buyers are now gone, wasting again the seller's time and all of the very serious buyers that couldn't afford to pay that much. Now I know the comments are going to be all,
who cares? They're big rich real estate owners who've been giving it to the poor buyers for half a decade now.
No, they're not. They're other citizens and owners. They're you. You that owns real estate at all, or future you that is buying real estate just now. Now let's talk about the unintended consequences of what will for sure happen. You see, right now you can actually make your offer stronger without increasing the price, because if you don't have conditions, you are a done deal, a done sale right now. And a seller may actually take your offer over top of a higher offer because they don't want to wait for that period of time. But if you now remove the ability for you to compete on the number of conditions you have in a contract, well, there's only one thing to compete on, and that ends up being the highest price. So let me break this down for you again. If you're selling your home and one offer comes in for, let's say you're selling your home for $1 million, and the other offer comes in at $990. Now the $1 million one is conditional for a 10-day period, and the $990 is sold right now today with deposit in hand. Well, you as the seller would possibly take the lower price so you didn't have to wait to find out if buyer number one can get their financing. But if buyer number two now has to have conditions, they have no choice but to offer more than the $1 million. So now maybe they have to offer $1,005,000 or $1,010,000. Ultimately, if buyer number two wants the property and has the ability to go unconditional, now they have to increase their price to get there, and they can no longer offer unconditional. That's correct. What I'm trying to say here is this consumer protection being proposed, at least on its face, by the BC government is going to ultimately, in my opinion, drive up prices because the seller can no longer look at other conditions in the contract to find out if that offer is better for them to accept, even though the price is lower. Next, it's going to be a lot more paperwork for the agents involved. And before you say,
"Oh, those guys are overpaid anyway,"
let me explain. In this new system, properties will take much longer to sell, which on its face isn't necessarily a terrible thing. But with the buyer being able to back out at any given time, every seller is now going to want to accept 1, 2, or 3 backup offers from other interested parties. Accepting all of these other offers and negotiating 4 offers on a property instead of 1 will ultimately drive the real estate agents like myself to have to work more and harder in order to get their paycheck. So why is that a problem? Well, if an agent has to work more and harder for less paychecks, eventually, believe it or not, I think this rule is going to increase real estate fees because they will now have to increase their fees to keep their businesses running. Now, I'm sure the next step is going to be for you to say, well, we should now cap real estate fees because real estate agents like myself make too much money. Well, if that is your thought, you are actually in contradiction of Canada's Competition Act. And I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure breaking that law could even end you up in jail. Next, it's important to know that the market is going to find a way. In other words, what is the workaround? If you have both willing buyers and willing sellers, they will find a way to work around the system and get what they want. And I think about 14 seconds after the BC government made this announcement, I found a post on Facebook that could easily just circumvent this whole thing. So yeah, it took people about 14 seconds to understand that you could just now make the deposit non-refundable, and it's the same as a subject-free offer. You see, it's most likely now that sellers will actually look for the deposit as is written on the standard contract of purchase and sale. They'll be looking for those deposits payable upon acceptance rather than what is customary now, which is upon subject removal down the road. And even worse, those buyers eager to still get into the properties because we are undersupplied will inevitably start offering those deposits directly to the seller rather than being held in the trust accounts. You think buyers are not protected now? What happens when sellers just start walking away with tens of thousands of dollars of theirs? When that starts happening, I mean, Lord help us all. So let's recap. This is intended to help buyers in a very crazy market so they don't make poor decisions and end up with houses that they either can't afford or they couldn't get an inspection on, which I can totally sympathize with. This new announcement will help very honest home buyers. It will create more bad actors on the buying side. It will waste the public's time, both of the serious buyers and the sellers, while those bad actors are doing bad things. It's my belief that this will ultimately increase home prices. And long term, I think it has an effect of likely increasing real estate fees. Now, here is what it will not do. This will not lower house prices. It will not bring more inventory and housing product to the market. This is only a move that the government is making to try and make it look like they are making it easier on people trying to purchase in a crazy market that they can actually do nothing about. They cannot fix the problem because the problems are, in fact, immigration. And let's face it, no political party is going to say, hey, stop the immigration. Immigration is causing more people to be here, meaning more people buying real estate is actually causing the inventory of that real estate to go down. And that's exacerbated by the building process across the entire country being way too slow as a result of the bureaucracies and those record low interest rates where people who are the haves and have money have likely picked up a second property, causing again inventory shortages. So without any of those things being fixed, this market is not changing anytime soon. Please make sure you comment down below and let me know what you think about my take of this recent announcement. Make sure to hit the like button even if you think I'm an idiot so you can help get this information out to other people like you who can then be better educated on the market and how much of an idiot I really am. Make sure you check out this playlist and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in a couple of days.